Welcome. Welcome to the American Finance Association Business Meeting and Presidential Address. My name is Jim Schalheim, and I'm the Executive Secretary and Treasurer of the AFA, and we'll begin the meeting with the business portion. First of all, I'd like to recognize the results of the 2018 election. The President is David Hirschleifer. President-elect and 2020 Program Chair, Kenneth Singleton. AFA Vice President, John Graham. And our new directors are Adria Eisfeld, Anna Pavlova, and Ingrid Werner. I'd also like to thank the nominating committee and all the candidates who ran for office. Many thanks go to our outgoing board members for their service, and that includes Javier Gabe, Arvind Krishnamurthy, Lubos Pastor, and Campbell Harvey. Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to mention the finances. The financial situation of the AFA is very good. As of our fiscal year, which ended June 30th, 2018, our net income from operations was over $544,000. With interest income, dividends, and unrealized capital gains, our total income for the same period was $1.4 million. And our total assets amounted to $19.2 million as of June 30th. I'm not sure what it is today, but it was up 11% for the same period. Preliminary membership numbers for 2018 show an increase, but the final numbers are not available, but they will be in my report that it comes out in the Journal of Finance in August. Several documents and policies were updated in 2018. New editorial ethics guidelines for the Journal of Finance were introduced, and changes made to the AFA Code of Professional Conduct and Ethics. Changes to the AFA bylaws were passed by the board, and there will be a membership vote this month to approve the bylaw changes. This, you should be looking for an email in the next week or so, so please watch your inboxes. And the changes in the bylaws pertain to, first, replacement of officers in case of a vacancy; second, references to the Code of Professional Conduct and Ethics; and third, provisions for the removal of an AFA officer, director, or fellow. I'd like to announce that the ASSA meetings will be in San Diego in 2020 and Chicago in 2021. And finally, I'd like to thank our administrative manager, Annette Clark, for all the hard and thoughtful work she does on behalf of the AFA, and please give her a round of applause. Now I'd like to turn the meeting over to the AFA President, Peter DeMarzo.
Thanks a lot, Jim, for kicking things off and for that report. Let me tell you the agenda that we're going to have today. First, we're going to hear from David Hirschleifer, and he'll give the program chair report. And I just want to take a moment to thank David for the great job he's done organizing the conference here in Atlanta. So thank you, David. And then Ken Singleton will provide the Vice President's report. And then we'll have Stefan Nagel give the JF Editor's report and lead off the award presentations.
Thank you very much, Peter. And I and I'm about to thank you again, actually. So I want to give many thanks to the session chairs, the presenters, and the discussants for making this a great program, and to Peter DiMarzo, last year's program chair, for all his help. I also thank Ken Singleton, the AFA Vice President, Zhou Wang and Jiguang Wang for organizing the PhD poster session, and Jim Scholheim and Annette Clark for hard work on conference logistics. And there were 73 sessions. 67 of those were regular sessions, 4 were panel sessions. There was the AFA lecture and 1 poster session. There were 240 papers in regular sessions, 94 poster papers. We had a record high number of submissions, 2,071, up 10% from the previous year at 1883. So the acceptance rate was down to 11.6% from 12.5% in 2018. The poster sessions had 94 papers out of almost 300 submissions for an acceptance rate of 32%, which was also down from recent previous years. As for the AFA lecture, it's a tradition to have a distinguished individual whose home is not a finance department to tell us about ideas that finance scholars ought to know about. And so this year, or today in fact, we were privileged to hear from Matthew Jackson on what makes financial networks special, understanding and evaluating systemic risk. A wonderful talk, an important talk, and if you missed it, it has been videotaped for placement on the AFA website. There were also very stimulating panels, so my thanks to the panel chairs as well as participants. And the panels are also videotaped, so they are not yet, but they will be placed on the AFA website. And the panels were on blockchain, myth and reality, Luigi Zangales, new data sets and methods in finance research, Michael Bailey, making the world a better place, innovations in financial inclusion, literacy and development, Osli Demirguk-Kunt, and fintech and money in the digital age, Marcus Brunnermeyer. And with that, I'll pass things on to the AFA Vice President, Ken Singleton.
So my task this last year, to a significant degree, was to work with the PhD students in various capacities, organizing their poster sessions and organizing a panel. We invited and paid the way for PhD students from all over the world to come to attend the AFA and to participate in a panel discussion about all aspects of academic life relevant to that stage of their career. We had a panel session on Thursday afternoon. I'm grateful to the panelists who worked with me on that, Cami Kunin from UNC, Adrian Verdelhan from MIT, and Neng Wang from Columbia. And I'd like to just take 1 second, and if there are some of those PhD students who participated in our travel grant here in the session tonight, would you please very briefly stand up? So with that, I'd like to express my gratitude to all of you for placing me up here on the stage. And I'm especially grateful to be on the stage in the capacity I'm in versus the capacity of the person I'm about to introduce. And so I'd like to welcome Stefan Nagel as editor of the Journal of Finance to the stage.
So I'm going to start with the editor's report for the Journal of Finance. And let me start by giving you some numbers on the submission flow. So 2018 was a good year. We received about 1,033 submissions. This number is slightly higher than in the previous year. And as I discussed in the last report last year, we had some reduction in the numbers in the years before because we eliminated reject and resubmits, which previously had led to some double counting in the new submissions. So in terms of submission flow, things are quite steady. Let me tell you something about something that as an author you're probably very interested in, which is the turnaround time. How fast is the JF? The median turnaround in 2018 was 49 days, and the number, or the fraction of papers that took more than 100 days was around 10%. And both numbers are, fairly in line with the numbers in the previous years, so there's no big change on that front. One reason why the median turnaround time in terms of number of days has gone up a little bit is because our desk rejection rate has gone down a little bit. So it stands right now at 32%. In the previous years, it was a little bit higher. But this does not reflect a change in our editorial policy in any way. It's just that over the previous year, we found it quite difficult because of the relatively high quality of the submissions to make decisions on papers without a formal review. So there's no change in policy. This is just a reflection of the quality of the submissions that we received. In terms of the first round revise and resubmit probability, no big change. Right now, the percentage stands at around 9.5%, and this is quite similar to what we saw in the previous years as well. And we also don't anticipate a big change in that in the future. In addition to the turnaround time, one number that as an author you might be very interested in is, how long does it actually take in terms of the whole process at the JF until a paper is accepted? So how many rounds of revisions does it take until a paper is through the process? And we are very pleased with what we are seeing there this year, that we have been quite efficient and fast there. So among those papers that have been accepted eventually, last year about 2/3 got accepted after only one revision, and 98% of all papers that got accepted had at most 2 revisions. So it's a fairly efficient process, and we are quite pleased with that. These numbers that I'm showing you here on the chart are particularly remarkable, actually, in light of the fact that we do not do any reject and resubmits anymore. So this means there is no hidden first round anymore. So when I say there was only one revision, it truly means there was only one revision. And in this chart, you can see how many of our new submissions were previously rejected papers, so papers that had received a reject and resubmit. We still had a few coming in that got a reject and resubmit from the previous editorial team, but the number was very small, and we expect this to go to 0 completely very, very soon. In terms of the total number of articles that we published, things look quite steady. We published close to 70 articles this year. It's slightly higher than in 2017. And we are also anticipating that this number will go up moderately in the coming year because our pipeline of accepted papers right now is relatively full. Many of the papers are currently in the copy editing stage, and once they are through, we expect to publish a slightly higher number of papers in 2019. What about the impact of the JF? I'm going to show you several statistics on this, but I can also give you a very brief summary, which is, if you look at all of these metrics, among all finance journals, the JF comes out at the #1 spot. If you look at all finance journals combined with the top 5 econ journals, the Journal of Finance is always in the #2 spot. So you can look at total citations. In 2017, the JF is #2 after the AER. In terms of the 2-year impact factor, so this measures how often have papers on average been cited in 2017 that were published in 2015 and 2016. The JF is #2 after the QJE. And in terms of the 5-year impact factor, again, the JF is #2 after the QJE. So, overall, there's no big change in terms of the impact statistics compared with the previous years. Let me also use this opportunity to tell you just briefly about a few things, news items and initiatives that we have been undertaking over the past year and where things stand regarding these initiatives. So one thing that you may recall that we introduced 2 years ago was a requirement for authors to share the code if they get a paper accepted in the Journal of Finance. And of course, it took some time until these papers that are subject to this requirement actually come through published in a journal. But now we have reached the stage that many papers that are coming out actually have replication code available on the journal website. So if you go to the Journal of Finance article page on the Wiley library, and you look at the bottom of the article in the supporting information, you can see that down there is now very often a link to replication code. And we are hoping that this is going to help the reproducibility and replicability of research that is published in the JF, that it makes reproduction and replication easier. And we expect many more papers in the coming year to have that replication code available. So you might want to look out for that. Yeah. Another thing we started in 2018 was an editor blog. Basically, in order to share, some statistics about what's going on at the JF, occasionally some news items, or some information about editorial policies. So, for example, we had an update recently about the code-sharing policy, or about our policy regarding reject and resubmits, and so forth. So, if you're interested in what's going on at the JF, I encourage you to check out what's happening on our blog. And one way you can also, follow this is by checking out our Twitter feeds. So we, in 2018, revived the Twitter account of the JF. And we have about 8,000 followers now, and it's still increasing every day. And this is a good way of keeping in touch with the JF. So we tweet about forthcoming papers, about editorial statistics, if we have new ones that we are putting up online and so forth. So if you're interested in what's happening at the JF, check out the Twitter handle j_of_finance. Okay, so this concludes my report. I want to finish by thanking several people. So running the journal would be impossible without the help and efforts of many, many people. And I would first like to thank my co-editors, Philip Bond, Amit Saru, and Wei Zhong, for their hard work. It's really a privilege to work with such a distinguished team, and I'm very grateful for their service to the JF and to the profession. I would also like to thank our hardworking associate editors. We depend on them a lot for advice and help, and we are very grateful for their service as well. And then I would also like to thank more than 900 referees that have helped us in the previous year. We are aware that we are taking up a lot of their time, and this is a big commitment to referee regularly for the JF, but they're doing a great service to the profession, and we are again very grateful for their help. And then finally, I would like to thank our assistant editor, Wendy Washburn. She has been with the JF for a long time, and we really depend on her very much to keep the Journal of Finance on the operational side running like a well-oiled machine, and she is doing a great job for that. Okay, so then I want to turn to the Best Paper Awards, and I would like to have my co-editors help me handing out those prizes. So we're going to start with the Brattle Prize, and Philip Bond is going to come up to help me with that, and later for the Amundi Prize, Wei Zhong is going to help me with that. So before we start, telling you about who received the awards, let me first give a big thanks to our sponsors, so the Brattle Group and Amundi Pioneer. The awards now carry a prize of $10,000 for a Distinguished Paper Award and $25,000 for a first prize paper. And we are very grateful for the support that we receive from our sponsors. So let's give the sponsors a round of applause. Let me also tell you a few words about the selection procedure. There was basically no change from the previous years. The way it works is that we ask our associate editors to self-select for one of the two prizes, and then to tell us, to the editorial team, what their top 3 papers are and to give us a rank ordering of those papers. And then my co-editors and I will look at these recommendations from the AEs, and we make the final selection among the highest ranked papers. Yeah. Okay, and so we're going to start with the Brattle prizes. So if Philip Bond, good, you're here already. Okay, perfect. So the Brattle, I think, is over here. Maybe you should go down, it's best. And then I would also like to ask Shastri Sandy from the Brattle Group to please come up and help us hand out those awards. All right, so the first distinguished paper we have is The Paradox of Financial Fire Sales, the Role of Arbitrage Capital in Determining Liquidity by James Dow, London Business School, and Jung-Suk Han, Stockholm School of Economics. And the next distinguished paper is Efficiently Inefficient Markets for Assets and Asset Management, Nicola Galeanu, Berkeley, and Lasse Petersen, Copenhagen. In this case, unfortunately, neither Nicola nor Lasse could be here at the meeting, and so their colleague, Lasse's colleague, David Lando, has graciously agreed to come and pick up the prize on behalf of them. So thanks a lot, David. All right, and the first prize paper for the Brattle Group is Homeowner Borrowing and Housing Collateral, New Evidence from Expiring Price Controls, Anthony DeFusco, Northwestern. Okay, so this concludes the Brattle prizes, and next will be the Amundi Pioneer prizes. And let me first ask whether anybody from Amundi Pioneer is in the audience today. If not, yeah, then my co-editor colleague Wei Jiang is going to handing out the prizes. So the distinguished paper prize for Amundi Pioneer goes to Pedro Yulhaya, Aalto University, for the paper Marginal Requirements and the Security Market Line. And the other distinguished paper prize is for the paper A Model of Monetary Policy and Risk Premia, Itamar Drexler-Wharton, Alexis Savov, NYU, and Philip Schnabel, NYU. All right, so we have one left. That's the first prize for Amundi Pioneer. And that is Deviations from Covered Interest Parity, Wenjin Du, University of Chicago, Alexander Tepper, Columbia, and Adrian Verderhan, MIT. Okay, so this concludes my part of the program, and I would like to now call up Cam Harvey for a special presentation.
Okay. 1995, we lost Fischer Black at the age of 57. And it's hard to really measure his impact, both professionally and personally. Everybody's got a story about Fischer, and even I've got a story. I was a junior faculty member, 3 years out, in my office, working late, 10:30 p.m., and I get the call from Fischer. And basically, the first thing he said, he accused me, ironically, of data mining some regressions in a JFE paper. And it didn't really matter to me. The fact that he connected with me as a junior person, it was just so energizing. And he touched so many people in a positive way. In 2002, a number of colleagues and friends put together an endowment for the Fischer Black Prize, and it was first awarded in 2003. So it turns out that the endowment is not really growing through time, and the prize of $15,000, we thought we should revisit the prize. So 2 years ago, the executive committee decided that we would launch a fundraising effort and to increase the endowment. So we turned to my colleague and mentor and friend and AFA fellow, Doug Breeden, to lead the fundraising effort. So Doug cannot be here today. He really wanted to be here. His wife, Josie, just had successful surgery, and she was moved home from the hospital yesterday. So instead, Doug is going to give the report as chair of the fundraising effort, and we've got a very short video to play, if we could play it now.
Hi, I'm Doug Breeden, and I'm sorry I'm unable to join you this year in person at the AFA convention, as I always enjoy the convention. I want to thank Campbell Harvey, former president of the AFA, for giving me the honor of chairing the committee to increase the Fischer Black Prize endowment. I first put together a committee of distinguished academics and business people who supported the prize, and I was able to take their support and talk to donors, including many of them, and the donors were inspired by that support to give generously, and we received a total of $865,000 against a goal of $500,000, so we surpassed our goal nicely. I was thrilled that the gifts were led by Gene Fama and by David Booth and by Cliff Adams as well. Their large gifts really made my day when they came in. I would also mention that John Cox, who led the original establishment of this prize, and Bob Witterman, also a co-author with Fischer, also made larger than normal gifts. And then there were about 20 more of us who chipped in, and that's how we got there. And I'm grateful to every gift that we had. I want to mention also that Chifu Huang helped access some of the funds and big hearts from former long-term capital principals, and I'm very grateful to Chifu for helping us do that. I want to tell one story, and that is that Gene Fama told that when Fischer was at the University of Chicago, his wife Sally used to play Fischer on tennis on Tuesday mornings, and she used to kick his ass. Gene, I remember that you used to do that to me when I was at the University of Chicago. So I'm sure you enjoyed many great times with Fischer there. Thank you very much, and good luck to the AFA. Wow.
Thank you, Doug. So I'd now like to introduce the past president of the AFA, David, to make the presentation of this year's award.
Thank you, Cam. Well, it gives me great pleasure to announce the 8th winner of the Fischer Black Prize. We've given every other year to an outstanding young financial economist. The prize, as Cam pointed out, recognizes Fischer Black's commitment to original research that is relevant to finance practice. And I'd like to thank Doug and all the donors for their generosity in enhancing this important prize. I also want to thank my fellow committee members, David Hirschleifer, Nikolai Galianu, Monica Piazzesi, and Sheridan Tittman, for their work identifying candidates and helping to select the winner. The prize was ultimately determined by a collective vote of the committee and the board of directors of the American Finance Association. With that, I am pleased to announce that the 8th winner of the Fischer Black Prize is Ralph Koyan of the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. I'm going to say some nice things about you now. Okay. Ralph has made important contributions to our understanding of asset pricing and financial intermediation. While he's written on a wide variety of topics, Ralph is perhaps best known for his research with Jules van Binsbergen and Michael Brandt on the term structure of the equity premium, and for his work with Moto Yogo on the behavior of life insurance companies. His work on the term structure of the equity premium presents evidence that the equity risk premia are higher at short horizons than long horizons, evidence that poses a challenge to existing asset pricing theories. In developing this line of inquiry, Ralph has stimulated a lot of research on this topic. Ralph's work on life insurance companies shines a light on a very large and important part of the financial sector, one that has received relatively little attention from financial economists. This work highlights the role of financial frictions and the pricing of insurance products and the importance of regulatory arbitrage in determining the structure and behavior of life insurance companies. And Ralph has been at the forefront of using structural estimation methods to analyze important issues in financial intermediation. With that, Ralph, please come to the podium and accept your Fischer Black Prize.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, David, and the committee and Cam and Doug for this award. I'm extremely grateful and honored. Of course, also my colleagues at various places over the years, so now Chicago, and in the beginning Chicago, LBS and Stern, for all the feedback and interactions over the years. And of course, my co-authors, and three in particular, with who I worked since I was a PhD student, so Stijn van Nieuwburg, Modo Yogo, and Jules van Binsbergen. So it's been great working with all of them, trying to push frontiers in various areas. And hopefully we can do a lot of exciting stuff in the future, and hopefully many of you will join us in the different areas. Thanks a lot.
Each year, the outgoing president of the AFA joins the AFA's Society of Fellows, which was formed in 2000 to recognize individuals who have made a distinguished contribution to the field of finance. At the end of this meeting, we'll be welcoming Peter DiMarzo to the Society of Fellows. And each year, the current fellows vote for another individual to join their ranks from a slate of candidates chosen by the AFA's nominating committee. And I'm pleased to announce that this year the fellows have selected Bill Schwart to join the Society of Fellows. Bill is best known for his pioneering work on volatility, risk, and stock returns, his work on inflation and asset returns. His economic insights are revealed in a pragmatic research style that makes his work accessible to so many and contributes to the extent and longevity of its impact. Of course, Bill has provided enormous service to the profession through his work at the Journal of Financial Economics, where he has been one of the editors since 1979, notably before our Fischer Black Award winner this year was born. And he has been managing editor since 1996. Congratulations, Bill, and please come to the podium to officially join the Society of Fellows.
David offered me the opportunity to stand here and speak briefly, and I'll try not to pull a Jim Valvano and ignore the stop sign, you know. I was inspired in thinking about what to say by the speeches that are typically given at things like the Heisman Trophy Award, where the winner always thanks parents, teammates, coaches, you know, whomever. And in some ways, that's exactly my situation. My family's been an important function in my success, not just in the normal way that you have spouses and children who put up with your strange work schedules, but in fact, my brother-in-law was a fellow PhD student with me and became a co-author. He later became my dean, so that was unusual. And more recently, my son has become a finance professor, and I've had the experience of giving him constructive feedback on his papers, which keeps me entertained later in my life, trying to inspire younger people to do more and better. And sometimes it works. So that's the family. The coaches, I had 3 Nobel Prize winners who were among the Society of Fellows on my dissertation committee, one of whom became a co-author at some point. Clearly that must have had some benefit to me. It's hard to complain about that kind of input to your work. I've had colleagues at Rochester and truthfully all over the world, not just the country, interact with during the 40-some years I've been doing this and benefited enormously from that. I've had co-authors who are members of the Society of Fellows, quite a few of them, and benefited a lot from that. I've had students, at least one student who's already a member of the Society of Fellows. That's a nice thing to be able to say. And you know, in some ways, as David pointed out, I've been doing editing at the JFE now for about 40 years, which is an appalling number. I tell my golf friends when I describe something like that I started when I was 8. It's not quite true. It is true it started in 1979. I wasn't 8. But as a result of that, I've gotten to know an incredibly large number of people, maybe not in the face-to-face sense that would be nice to be able to say you could do, but by reading people's papers and then by reading referees' thoughtful criticisms and comments on the papers, I've learned an incredible amount about a wide number of people and how they think about the world. And that's been incredibly valuable to me. I mean, it's truly enjoyable, even though it's work. So I want to thank the AFA for recognizing that. I appreciate the honor, and you know, I'm glad to be part of the group. Thank you very much.